Today I have a very special guest coming in all the way from Singapore to talk on what is going on in the crypto world. I've got nothing but to say all about this lady who's about to join me here in our office in DIFC. She is known to be a crypto head, meaning she knows a lot about cryptos, and she also endorses a lot of projects going forward. The unique part is that she's also a model and is a influencer in the world coming forward. I would like to invite Nikita Sachdev to come and join me on this live stream out up here. Nikita, welcome to our Talk Sense show.
Hi, nice to be here again, Prem.
Welcome, Nikita. I mean, every time I hear your story about how you started in this blockchain space, I get inspired. So I would like you to share with our audience today how your journey started in this blockchain space.
So it was kind of a twist of fate. I was running my modeling agency in Singapore. I had been modeling myself a couple of years prior to that, and then decided I wanted to do something entrepreneurial, started my agency, gathered all my friends in, and was representing a huge database of 3,000 talents all over Asia. And we expanded and we got into not just modeling, but also helping out with production, providing hosts, interpreters, all types of talents, beatboxers, dancers, you name it. So we were asked to bring a few hostesses to make an educational video about an ICO. And I was like, I have no idea what an ICO is, but let's do it. One of our technology clients. So I got on set and I was hosting and just making this educational video, reading off the teleprompter. And I remember reading like, blah, 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 ICO, da, 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 blockchain. And I was like, what is this? And it was just a CEO that said to me that if I had invested in Bitcoin in 2008, $100 would make me a millionaire. And I was sold. And as bad as it sounds, that's how I got into it. But it was a hands-on experience, and that's how I started learning, because my money was in crypto. And then I'm like, all right, what am I doing here?
Got it.
So I started making videos on Bitcoin on my own social media because it was making me money and I loved it. So I was like, hey guys, you guys should check out Bitcoin. It's gonna change the world. It's digital currency. It's amazing, blah, blah, blah. So from there, a lot of other projects saw my videos and started saying, make a video for us too. So one of my biggest clients was then Huobi Exchange. I became the host of Huobi. I started doing videos for brands like eToro. Larger brands started speaking was invited at Oxford to speak on a panel because I was one of the early on, like, especially women in blockchain was a big topic. So it was just being at the right place at the right time.
Got it. I mean, it was for me also that it took some time to understand what crypto was. It took me also, I think, for the first time I heard about it in 2013, and I thought it was like nerd money. So I was like, nah, I'm not gonna do anything with this. But eventually in 2016, I started mining Bitcoin actually. I still do actually, but not at a big scale or anything. But yeah, that's how I got interested, because I wanted to understand every aspect of what it is. This cryptocurrency, which is decentralized, which is disintermediating trust, was really something which was, and I also started off for a quick buck, but now we are in 2019 and still, bullish on the fact that it has a store of value basically going forward. Yeah. Now, one of the things which blockchain does is basically disintermediate that trust, right? When I grew up, had many banks basically around me. Where do you put your money? You put your money in the bank, not under your pillow, but you put it in the bank, because there where the trust is. But seeing now so many years working in the financial industry, I started to trust less and less the banks. What is for you one of the big pointers for the use case for blockchain or crypto in general?
I always like blockchain. Of course, like currency is one part, which I think will take time because we need to surpass so many regulations. We need the governments, the banks to be on board in order for cryptocurrency to to even be used in a country. Like, it's still banned in so many countries because it's getting in the way of their monetary system, and the governments and the banks, they don't like it. So right now, I like, as much as I love crypto and I'm a crypto advocate, I just don't see that being the first case to emerge. Not first case to emerge, or because it is, Bitcoin was the first, blockchain only came into realization because of Bitcoin.
Absolutely.
But what I mean is, right now, I think a big use case for blockchain can be in the healthcare industry, for example. Just because, like, it's such an old school kind of system with documents and filing and whatnot in the back office system, and I feel like blockchain technology can add so much value into that, in terms of like creating a ledger where everything is connected. Just because I kind of had a personal experience with it, like. Last year, my dad was trying to apply for PR in Singapore.
Okay.
And he couldn't get it because they couldn't find his birth certificate.
What?
And because he was born somewhere like random in India, and they couldn't find the birth certificate. Obviously, like, they don't even know where the hospital is. And and I come from a family, like, my two sisters are doctors as well, so they always talk about like the medical system and the way things are done in hospitals. And it just seems like, wow, like, come on, incorporate blockchain into this. Like, everyone can share data. It's not like if you transfer from one hospital to the other, you have to do all these tests over again. So I think the healthcare and medical field is a good use case.
Absolutely. As we are becoming, I'm an expat here in Dubai. I've not lived all my life out of here, so it's always, you can take your medical dossier to some other place. If I move to Singapore or Hong Kong, and people try to understand me going forward, so it makes definitely sense. And the use case of blockchain also makes sense because you can give them permission to your doctor or your new doctor to have a look at your medical history going forward.
I would like to see cryptocurrency being used a lot more, but I think it'll take some time.
Yeah, so that's very interesting because as you know, right, I mean, a lot of central banks are actually looking at some kind of, not crypto, but digital currency, as they call it, to come into the market, because they feel that the use of cash is going to be less and less. Although, I think last week it was that the white paper was 11 years back for the first time published by Satoshi Nakamoto. This 11 years, really, we've not seen mass adoption of cryptocurrencies. You see anything change basically back home in Singapore, where you feel that the mass, for example, the authorities in Singapore are going to be more friendly towards crypto?
Yeah, I mean, the monetary authority in Singapore has been quite open-minded to cryptocurrencies. That's why Singapore has become such a hub for anything fintech related. And a lot of companies from China, when it was banned in China, a lot of companies actually came to Singapore. So there was a lot of buzz going on there. But saying that, even when the internet first came out, it took, people were working on it about 20 years, 30 years before to even, because just yesterday I was speaking to someone who mentioned that he was working with the internet in the 1970s and writing a paper on how the internet would change the world. And then it didn't really hit us until like 20 years later. I think it's the same with blockchain. It'll hit us sooner than 20 years, but hopefully, things are moving faster in this day and age. But it just takes time for mass adoption to happen. I think it will happen, and we're already seeing that. Like now, Turkey, for example, is a huge market. I was just there. Huobi just moved there. OKX is doing things there. A lot of big giants in the industry are going into Turkey, and there's being Bitcoin accepted everywhere because the Turkish lira is unstable. It's and that's when you'll see adoption, is when they see, like, if there's a financial crisis or when you feel like the economy is unstable, I think that's when you need it, it'll come out, like depending on the economy. And those countries that really need it are seeing a lot more, are seeing quicker mass adoption, like Turkey, where small vendors are accepting Bitcoin even for tourism boats, like
No, absolutely. I mean, the Turkish lira has been quite unstable for a long time. I remember in '96 when I went for the first time to Istanbul, everybody would earn their money in lira and then immediately go to the bank to change it into US dollars, because today a loaf of bread would be, let's say, 100 lira. Tomorrow it could be 150 lira. But that's really been going on for a very long time. Although a lot of tourism has come in, and also getting a lot of money into Turkey going forward. But yeah, I totally agree. Economies which have seen, like Argentina, like Zimbabwe, I mean, countries where the currency in recent years have really been unstable, a good answer is basically cryptocurrency. And getting, for example, something like the US dollar is also can be quite tough going forward. Now, of course, you run two different companies basically. One of them is still your management company, Luna Management.
Yeah.
What kind of activities are you running out of Singapore, still out of there?
So we're a talent management and a production company. So we do everything media related, from providing models, entertainers, dancers, whatever it is, like to fill your event up, or faces for campaigns, commercials, to even providing the photographers and videographers to do it.
Fantastic. So it's a full production house in that matter, where you have different kind of artists coming in, helping that out. Is there anything in Singapore particularly which you could share with us, what is happening in the space going forward?
So in Singapore, let me see, Singapore is in 2017, Singapore is moving really fast, because I remember one of the first ICOs that I even heard about was in Singapore. Okay. So like when I said I was at the right place at the right time. I feel like the trends right now are kind of global. Like I wouldn't say they're coming out of one place or another. I think they're quite global. I think the industry is maturing up. I think it's a sign that the industry is maturing up. The trends, it's hard to say. We saw a lot of ICOs in 2017, a lot of SCOs 2018. This year's a bit of a mix. I think just all the crappy projects will filter out itself. We're seeing
that's part basically of any ecosystem, right? In the startup world, basically, there is a lot of companies coming up, but there's also a lot of shakeout. I heard numbers like 90% can be shaken out in some certain period of time. I remember where you were last year, basically here in Emirates Towers. You were on stage at the Trescoin World Blockchain Summit, addressing how the market is going to change going forward. What do you see basically in the coming 2 years, basically, really? Do you see real mass adoption of crypto happening in Singapore itself? Because, again, fintechs are a lot in Singapore available. I think this week it is FinTech Week even. So do you see any big things which we can expect in the coming 2 years?
So first of all, I think blockchains are becoming better. Like, they're becoming more scalable, they're becoming quicker. So that's one thing, is the development of blockchain separately. But in terms of crypto, we call it digital gold, right?
Okay, yes.
And we're not really using gold on a day-to-day basis.
True.
But it has kind of mass adopted. So that's how I see crypto being for the next couple of years, until we figure out a way how to make a more system, a cryptocurrency that we can use on a daily basis that kind of ticks all the boxes, because there's so many cryptocurrencies out there and they all fulfill different needs. And because the industry is still kind of new and developing, we're still yet to find, the next daily Bitcoin. But right now, Bitcoin particularly to me is digital gold, and it's more of an asset, not to really use on a day-to-day basis, but to, hodl.
Absolutely. Well said, I think, summarizing where our market is at. And the technology is also moving so fast at times that I also have to blink my eyes what's going on in technology to keep on making up how to go forward. Now, one of the things, we also have a friend from the African continent, Yadav. I would like to invite Yadav to come as well to talk on what's going on in the African continent. Welcome, Yadav.
Hi, Prem. Thank you.
All right, man. So, Yadav, you've been in Kenya for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
You understand the African market and the demands, what is going out of there. What do you see happening here when it comes to acceptance of cryptocurrency?
To be honest, Prem, I think what's happening in the African region is there's all the young people who are looking to do something different. Every young person, the modern thing is change the world.
Okay.
So they want to do something different. And that different thing is normally related to tech. And the two buzzwords right now in tech, where there's a lot of stories about overnight millionaires, are blockchain and cryptocurrency.
Okay.
So the young people, young Africans, are really trying to get into the cryptocurrency space for various reasons.
Got it. So, I've not been to Kenya, so I cannot really speak out of, but I heard that, for example, in the African continent, M-Pesa is something very big. Could you elaborate on that? What is M-Pesa and how does it work?
M-Pesa is just very simple. It's a mobile wallet. So you can have up to the equivalent of $700, which you can transfer on a daily basis from my mobile wallet to your mobile wallet. So let's say that I want to buy a phone from you, right, which is, let's say, $400.
Got it.
So I go to you and you give me the phone, as long as I can, what they say, I'll M-Pesa you. Just like we say, I'll WhatsApp you.
Got it.
This is, I'll M-Pesa you the 400. So as soon as I send it to your phone, there's obviously a transaction charge for it, but it's just, the beautiful thing is I don't have to give you a check. I don't have to carry so much cash. I don't have to phone the bank. I don't have to have internet there and then and do this long, put the amount in and bank details and then do a send, and it takes a couple of hours. It's just then and there.
It's instant.
It's instant.
So that's awesome. And are there any fees also with M-Pesa? Or
Yeah. It is. It is reasonably expensive. But because there's mass adoption,
got it.
It's difficult. There are other platforms out there which people are trying to introduce.
Yes.
But M-Pesa it's penetrated the market, and it comes from a company called Safaricom, which is the largest telecom provider in Kenya.
Got it.
So because they were the ones who actually introduced it into the Kenyan market, the adoption is literally I think it's. I think we're running into 7-8 million. I could be wrong. But.
I got it. So I've got 3 kids. My eldest daughter is 11 years. I always say that she will never ever go to a bank and open a bank account, because she will just get her mobile phone, download an app, and she's on fire basically.
Yeah.
What's your view on it? Am I talking craziness, or is this going to be reality?
No, it's going to be reality, because. Let's be honest here. How often do we visit banks now compared to before? Before, you go to your bank almost every day, every other day, at least once a week to do all your banking. My father-in-law, who's a traditional restaurant owner who gets paid in cash,
Got it.
because he's used to it, he takes all his restaurant earnings. He likes going to the bank and depositing his couple of £100, whatever he earns from there. But his sons don't do that.
Got it.
So I think definitely if we're seeing the trend where we visit the bank less, then our children will probably hardly visit a bank.
Got it. So, I mean, when I think of Africa or the African continent, I think also about financial inclusion or the underbanked. And you come from that continent, you live out of there.
Yeah.
What is your view on this underbanked kind of statement? Is it really true, or is it hyped by the media?
It's a bit of both. I think what happens is there is a certain population, and it's all to do with education. People who are not used to, so it's funny, we're living in a world where people are literally transferring money from mobile to mobile.
Got it.
And at the same time, there's someone existing in a village who doesn't own a mobile. They have money and they just want to do the simple transaction of taking $1 to pay for something and seeing 50 cents come back to them as change.
Got it.
So there is such a spread between the two types of people that are existing.
Yeah.
But their children, the ones who handle cash, they won't do that. So there is a large population, but the adoption is very quick.
Got it.
So the sons will do it, then they'll show the parents how to do it, they'll show their friends how to do it, and then suddenly it just catches on very quickly. So there is a lot of the unbanked, and you do get people saying, oh, well, there's this many people don't have a bank account, but these days people don't have a bank account, but they have M-Pesa.
Got it. Yeah.
So,
I mean, Kenya at times is called the Silicon Valley of Africa.
Yeah.
Is this also true?
To a certain extent, because you see, Kenya, it has the government has a certain stability which unfortunately a lot of African countries don't have. If I can just correct myself there. There's not been there was a little bit of an issue in 2008 because of the elections, but a little bit of violence here there, but nothing too massive. So it's politically quite stable, relatively stable.
Got it.
The second thing is we've got a very educated population, a lot of young people. For example, if a country like Tanzania, if I need 3 Tanzanians to do the same work as 1 Kenyan.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, I don't know whether it's the coastal air that they live in, but it's just a very kind of laid back, by 5 o'clock we need to close. Whereas in Kenya, it's like they're really kind of, living in this kind of corporate life where they'll work till 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, pushy, get things done, So it is, and there's a lot of companies, fintech companies wanting to set up there. So there was recently a friend of mine told me he invested into a fintech company that did everything. They built an app. Okay. He invested $500,000, and 3 years later he got back $2.78 million, and the whole app was built in Kenya.
Wow.
And then sold to an international company.
Wow, that's really amazing.
Yeah.
That's truly a story which we do not hear that a lot, but that's a unicorn basically coming forward. So looking at, you do travel a lot. You also come quite often to Dubai and go to the UK, for example.
Yeah.
Are there any trends you would like to share which you see, which is going to be, next kind of stuff? The whole thing is this, first of all, if you look at, central banks also looking into it. Libra Association, you must have heard of it, right? Facebook is trying to come with its own cryptocurrency where WhatsApp, for example, is owned by Facebook. So, we could do kind of like you were sharing right now with M-Pesa, that could happen in reality by using WhatsApp money then, for example, to settle our bills. Do you see any trends like this also while you're traveling around the globe in the crypto space?
Yeah. So my view on crypto is very simple. The world is trying to become frictionless. Frictionless in the sense that the things that you need to do, the necessary things, shouldn't take more than a couple of seconds.
Got it.
Right? So it's like now when you leave the airport, right? Before it was standard immigration for a long period of time, right? Then they look through everything, they stand, they ask for documents, and it's quite a procedure.
Got it.
And now I noticed when I entered Dubai just 2 days ago, they said, do you have your resident card, ID card? They said, just swipe it and you can go. Wow. Frictionless.
Got it.
Okay, so it's trying to, what the whole of civilization wants is everything to become frictionless. But the one thing that is still not entirely frictionless, and there are good reasons for it, but is the transfer of money from one party to another. I had a case where I wanted to invest into a stock in Australia. It wasn't a big amount, so I sent instructions from a UK bank that please invest into this, the bank was a significant bank in Australia. They sent the money. They said, okay, yeah, we'll send it. It should reach in about 2 or 3 days. 5 days later, when I called the bank, it still hadn't reached. And another 5 days later, the funds actually went back into my account.
Oops, okay.
Okay, and the corresponding bank account, the bank account in Australia, they just somehow didn't receive the money. Now that's what is frustrating, because in the time that I actually did that, the stock price went up.
Got it.
So I was pretty annoyed, and then I had to wait for the stock price to, luckily then it came down, and then I eventually bought it. But if it never came down, it shows the story.
Yes.
So what would I have preferred to do? I would have preferred to click a few buttons like you can with many things and just send it. So with cryptocurrency, that's the biggest thing. It comes with its negativity, which is a lot of kind of, you can say, illegal, unethical money can go into the system. But what it does do is allow me to send money to you when we can transact, rather than going through the uncle bank.
Got it.
Right? Like it's almost like a big brother sometimes, which is asking you, it asks you, why do you want money to be sent? And what's this for? And can you give your due diligence? It's still a process. Everything else, like immigration takes 1 minute, bank transfer takes a long time. And I think that's where I'm saying that the younger generation want to do all these coffee with friends, dinners, anything which is artistic, that's where you want to spend your time, experiences. And you don't want to spend a lot of time doing your laundry, cooking, sending money to another person.
True.
That's what I'm saying.
I call it the one-click society, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Because in one click, you want to know that, last week I ordered a pizza with these toppings. So, you want to repeat that, but you don't want to go through and say, more mushrooms, less cheese, or something like that. But you want to know that the pizza baker knows exactly what we want, and no one going to ask me which apartment are you staying.
Yeah, exactly. And to be honest, that's what it is. And exactly what or following on from what Nikita said, there is a strong kind of sense. There were some people who were skeptical about the adoption of cryptocurrency. I think we've gone way past that stage. Those people who think Bitcoin will go to zero, for me, it's impossible. That's never going to happen. Okay. It will evolve. It'll evolve maybe into a slightly different animal over time. Its uses, but now big kind of Richard Branson. He recently, he was asked, "What do you think of the adaptation of Bitcoin?" And he basically just said, well, it's already been adapted. You're asking me about a future, but it's actually already done. And then there's someone actually went out a pretty, I'm forgetting the name now because we get so much information on it, so my apologies, but they came and said, well, crypto is going to reach $2 million per Bitcoin by the time of end of 2020. Now, these are very big statements, whether that happens or not, but you can see the positivity with people who are, reading signs, looking at the industry. I'm sure it's not just, backwash like what they're saying.
Got it.
It's literally based on, research, understanding, the trends.
Got it.
So everyone is becoming, more and more people are jumping onto the Bitcoin or digital asset bandwagon than jumping off it.
Got it. All right. So thank you so much, Yadav, for coming on and explaining us what is going on. I definitely believe that going forward, that the borders we have nowadays will become smaller and smaller.
And it will.
I remember that a time when people would travel and they had to get a visa for that took time. And nowadays you have something called visa on arrival or an e-visa, which makes things easier while traveling going forward.
And that's it. Look, ultimately, the African continent, I guess my last thing I want to just say, just moving on from what you're saying, the African continent, Africans regard each other as Africans. Doesn't matter whether you're from Nigeria, whether you're from Kenya, you know, it's all like we're neighbors, you know, we're kind of from the same place. And the thing is, like, we had one person, so this is just a classic example. One person was asked, why did you invest in Bitcoin? And he goes, this was a Nigerian. And he goes, well, the Naira fell 40% in the time that my Bitcoins went up 60%. Right. So do you want me to invest in Naira or you want me to invest in Bitcoin? Bitcoin is becoming more, and we see with Bitcoin, it is still volatile. No one's going to pretend about it. But it is becoming more and more stable. You get the occasional sudden rise and the sudden fall, but you do see a period of stability before kind of like big rises and falls. So I think that will give people more confidence to kind of, you know, invest in it, you know, adopt it.
Got it. Let's see what the future is going to be.
For sure.
The future is going to be bright. That's at least what we hope. Thank you so much for coming on our TalkSense show and, you know, giving your views on what's going on. It's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. And also thank you, Nikita, for coming on and, you know, being with us, talking about what's going on in the Singapore Asian market. So saying bye to everyone out there. Thank you for being on our live stream. See you next time. Bye-bye.